intimidated. Everywhere there is a stand up to racism group, I urge you to get involved, because it's people like this who come out and try and intimidate us. We need to show them that we are the many and they are the few. So there are many, many more of us than you.
Can you actually believe this? That I'm here in York covering a march for ex-soldiers, veterans of Northern Ireland who have been prosecuted for actions that they did under orders in Northern Ireland during the Operation Banner over the last 30 to 40 years, and Stand Up to Racism have turned out and called us all racists. As per usual, every single demonstration I go on, the same kind of groups around there, the same kind of people are here shouting the same insults, calling us Nazis, calling us bigots, Islamophobes. How can anything today be anything to do with racism when we're actually marching against the fact that veterans of Northern Ireland are actually being prosecuted for anything they did under orders in Northern Ireland? If you're jumping on, can you please share this so we can get it out there? If you're in any groups, share them into groups.
I don't know what is. This is a man who wants to tell us that we're on the side of the violent. And
if you have a look, what's quite funny, to be fair, when I stand back, if you look at the amount of police who are holding and standing in front of Sutra, who are backed by the Social Workers Party and Momentum, or completely endorsed by Diane Abacus, or whatever you want to call her. Abacus is a good word, you can't count. We all know that. But these are here to oppose soldiers who have been prosecuted for their actions in Northern Ireland. They're calling us racist. They haven't got a clue. These people seriously haven't got a clue. Can you please share this? Thank you.
I want to remind you, your great leader, Tommy Robinson, is currently on a list to go back to jail because he ain't out for long. And the second thing I want to say is that on that list is another thing.
Just keep sharing it, please. Thank you. Look at this idiot.
Not for the individual soldiers, not for the actual lives of those who go out to war.
When we first got here this morning, some lads turned up on their push bikes, started ranting and raving at us, asking where the EDL marcher was. When we told them that there's nothing to do with the EDL and told them what it was about, they looked absolutely gobsmacked. So I don't know what this Stand Up to Racism, i.e. Sutra, have been told, or why they think they're out here, but it's nothing to do with Islam. It's an absolute joke. They haven't got a clue what they're shouting about. They're a bright bunch, aren't they? Look at them. Bunch of yoghurt knitting, tree hugging, oxygen freaks, most of them.
And it's the wrong kind of dignity they can get. And we know one thing for sure. We know that you and your racist friends are using...
John, you ought to get on onto Jamie Goddard's feed if you want to congratulate him, mate, but he's still doing a great job, so thank you for giving him a shout. I'm going to take a little walk back down towards where the veterans are. They're going to be walking down with the banner now, and they've got the pipes playing. Now these who stand up to racism are actually opposing. Can you share into groups, please, if you're in any groups? Thank you. So these who Sutra are opposing, veterans, men who have served our country, fought for our country, and they're actually standing and shouting that we're a bunch of racists. It's absolutely unbelievable. How stupid are these going to look when they walk past these? And all the people on that, you know, who aren't here for the demo are all clapping our lads. It just shows the hatred that Sutter and the left have got against anybody. They ought to be absolutely ashamed of themselves. There's Rob Gray marching, proud as always. What a fantastic reception we're getting from people on the side, all clapping us. There's Bill Weir, Rob Gray, Mike Buchan, MEP, Deputy Leader of UKIP. Thank you. Decent policeman there, making sure I don't trip up. Just let you watch these guys go by. Like I say, I'm sorry if I keep saying it, but can you please share? It's the only way to get this out there and let people understand what's going on. Thank you, sir. So this where I am today is in York, marching for the fact that prosecutions are being brought against ex-military guys who had served in Northern Ireland, and all your I didn't know whether you noticed, we've been on the live stream from the beginning. We've just had to march past Sutter, which is Stand Up to Racism. For some reason they think these lads are here and we're all racists, bigots. They think it's got something to do with Islam. It's got nothing to do with Islam, this march. Absolutely nothing. Sorry, mate. So we're marching on down to our end point where there'll be some speeches be given by one Richard Inman's who's the actual master of ceremonies, and you've got Mike Hookham, MEP, which is the deputy leader of UKIP, an ex-soldier himself. He actually served 4 years in the RAF and then left the RAF and then served another 9 years with the parachute regiment and commandos. I believe he did both. There's my old regiment's flag, Royal Artillery. The respect that we're getting from people who are still on the side is lovely. But when we marched past Sutter, Stand Up to Racism earlier on, they were doing the usual, spouting the usual rubbish, saying that we're all racists, we're bigots, we're Nazis. Can you see any Nazis here? All I see is a load of proud men who served their country. That's Norman, Storm and Norman calling out the march. If you please share, if you just jumped on, just give it a share on your profile. It's the only way we can actually get this out to people, because let's face it, mainstream media never ever want to show anything to the UK. There's bigger threats as Islam in its barbaric form. You can see at the back the flag of the DFLA, which is the Democratic Football Lads Alliance. The work that they do for the homeless and the work they do against any kind of extremism is off the scale. There's been thousands upon thousands, normal British working men, football fans who have got together and formed a group.
Football fans. You should listen to Soldier. She called us racist.
Hey, no, I've just been past there. I've just been past there, mate. Nothing racist. Listen. I'm letting everyone know what it's all about, mate. What Sutter is saying, what Sutter are all about. Don't let them bother you. Don't let them bother you, mate. You rise above it. You rise above it. How you doing, Graham? Nice to see you. Sorry, Matt. If you have just come on, can you share into any groups that you're in, please? Let's get this out there. Thank you very much. Like I say, if you've only just joined, I'm actually in York, covering the march for veterans of Northern Ireland who are now attempts have been prosecuted for their actions over there, which they were under orders while they were there. It's an absolute disgrace. Because you'll find that the IRA, at the time, they've been given an amnesty. Well, we need a blanket amnesty because that's the only way that this can move forward. Why should soldiers be prosecuted for something when they was under orders? Three proud ex-veterans there, Mr. Bill Weir, Mr. Rob Gray, and over the far side we have Mike Hookham, MEP, who's the Deputy Leader of UKIP. How you doing, Tony Howden? Nice to see you, fella. So like I say, if you've only just joined us, you missed us when we marched past Stand Up to Racism. They were actually all, there's about 50 to 100 all screaming the usual that they always scream, that we're a bunch of racists, we're bigots, we're Nazis. Well, I say to any of you, have a look at down this line of men here, you tell me one that fits that narrative.
Stand! Easy! Parade! Attention! General salute to Her Majesty the Queen! Salute! Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray! I want for the bugle! Hooray! Stand! Easy! Well done, ladies and gentlemen! Thank you very much to all the veterans who are in attendance today. We all know why we are here, and this is to stop the persecution of veterans who today are being persecuted for doing their duty in Northern Ireland. This is why we are here. Thank you very much. Parade! Fall out!
So I believe what was going to happen now, there's going to be a few speeches given. Richard Inman, who I had the chat with earlier on, he's going to be the Master of Ceremonies. And we've got Mike Hookham, MEP, he's the Deputy Leader of UKIP. He's going to be giving a speech, I believe, as well. So I'll keep live streaming anyway. If you've only just joined, can you please share? If you're in any groups, give it a share. Thank you. I don't know if any of you did notice earlier on, if you've been on the from the beginning of the live stream. No more than 100 metres that way, around the corner, we have Sutra. We've just had to march past them yet again. The police, the police, you know, there's more police holding Sutra back from us than the police that was actually around us. Why should the police be here? You know, you've just heard what the actual march is about. It's about the injustice being served against veterans of Northern Ireland. And then you've got Stand Up to Racism turning up here and calling us Nazis, calling us bigots, calling us Islamophobes. It's got nothing to do with Islam. Nothing. Let's go for a walk down here now. Point out a few figures. That's Richard Inman, also known as Harvey. Mr. Mike Hookham, MEP, Deputy Leader of UKIP. That gentleman there, our regular bugler. Everywhere we go, he'll play the last post. Mr. Rob Gray, General of a man, ex-bomb disposal from Northern Ireland. Hiya Donald. So a little wander round. There's regular faces there, Stuart and Spike. That's why we're here, supporting justice for Northern Ireland veterans. That's the reason we're here today. Thank you, my love. Thank you. Veterans and People's Party leader Robin Horsfeld, ex-SAS. If anybody knows about Robin, he was actually on the stormed the Iranian embassy when we first ever found out who the SAS, well, the wider world found out who the SAS was. I don't think anybody can forget that day, or that standoff against the terrorists at the Iranian embassy in London. So we're just going to do a few speeches now. Hi, Karen Lewis from America.
Woolen Mill. We're going to disturb the peace of the Edinburgh Woolen Mill for the next 3 hours. No money joking, for the next 40 minutes or so. Welcome everybody to this first ever Northern Ireland Justice for the Northern Ireland Veterans Parade here in York. We've had a very interesting little walk around the corner there, and it looks like the microphone's going to break down as well. It's a good job we've all got. It's a good job we've all got loud voices. Just dress in round here, ladies and gentlemen. Just keep moving in. Keep moving in.
If anybody doesn't know, any of
and
friends
we've got to remember why we're here.
This man's called Richard Inman.
We're here because there's a great injustice being done to men and women that served in Northern Ireland. They have been slandered. They have been called out as all sorts of things, even by that rebel round the corner there. Well, first of all, we're not racist, because most of us in the units that served in Northern Ireland served with people of all religions and all races. So it's a scandal for them to get away with calling us racist. and we will call them out on it, and we will call them to account. But we're here for our comrades that have been dragged through the legal system in Northern Ireland, and we're going to stand here and keep standing here until the job is done and until their names are cleared and they are free to go and free to walk the streets without fear of arrest or prosecution.
Well said, Richard, well said.
I want to now introduce our good friend Mike Hookham. Mike is a veteran. Mike is a patriot, and Mike represents one of the only parties in this country, in fact the only mainstream party in this country that really cares about veterans. Give it up for Mike Hookham, Deputy Leader of UKIP.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we are on. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I'm at the edge now where my memory's going, so I have to read stuff. Yeah, for those who served in the forces, often describe the bonds we share as like being part of a family. And like all families, it's at times of adversity that the bonds of true solidarity and brotherhood are put to the test. That is why it fills me with such pride to see so many of you here today. For it's our experiences, our common cause, and our loyalty that bonds us together like few other groups. And it proves that it's not only the Provisional IRA who can live by the motto, once in, never out. No words can reflect the random brutality of the fighting, nor the mental and physical scars that veterans took away from the conflict in Northern Ireland, and often carry to this day. And whether you call it the Troubles, the conflict, or Operation Banner, what happened in Northern Ireland was nothing less than war. And war is a dirty, brutal business, whatever definition you give it. And in nearly 40 years, the Troubles in Northern Ireland claimed more than 3,500 lives. Over half of the casualties were civilian, due in main to the guerrilla tactics employed by the terrorist organisations involved. However, of the combatants, for every paramilitary killed, 2 members of the armed forces and security services lost their lives. And while I mourn every member of our brave armed forces who lost their life, I remain utterly unapologetic for the deaths of terrorists. These were people who had taken it upon themselves to take up arms and force a political change. The majority of people in Northern Ireland did not want. These people were not freedom fighters, nor were they heroes. Instead, they were anti-democratic criminal insurgents who thought nothing of killing and maiming soldiers and civilians alike to further their ends. In times of war, those who live by the sword often die by the sword. Therefore, any terrorist killed got what they deserved in my book. However, despite having won the peace in Northern Ireland, it would seem our brotherhood eventually lost the war. Rather than being thanked for their dedication, professionalism and service, veterans today fear a knock at the door and being scrutinised over events a lifetime ago. From where I'm standing, the odds of being targeted in this post-conflict witch hunt are growing. And now it seems it could happen to anyone who's ever seen active service. Despite a public outcry over the historical prosecution of veterans and a few MPs asking for an amnesty, the Tory government is still debating the establishment of a new historical investigations unit for Northern Ireland. And don't think for a second that the Labour Party will help. At a recent debate in the House of Commons on this issue of veteran prosecutions, only one Labour MP bothered to show up.
Shame on them.
And that was
That's
because
for you.
he was a shadow minister responsible and he had to be there. As for the Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn. A man who has sympathised with violent republicanism by refusing time and again to condemn the IRA. A man who invited IRA representatives to the Commons a fortnight after the Brighton bombing. A man who stood for a moment's silence for IRA terrorists killed in an SAS ambush.
Sorry to walk away from this, but someone's screaming and shouting insults on the sidelines, so I'm just going to see if I can find out who it is who's got the audacity to start shouting out Nazi from the sideline. Unbelievable. Obviously they've just been moved on by the police. He's gone, James.
So I ask you, what is the good of applying a rose-tinted microscope to events of 30 or 40 years ago? What possible good can it do? Persecuting veterans does nothing more than open old wounds at a time when sensible people would be looking to the future and building on the very tentative peace we achieved in Northern Ireland. However, instead of promoting peace for all involved, the UK justice system has once again hefted its right-on politically correct weight behind investigating and potentially prosecuting old men who have bravely fought for their country at the behest of a government of today. There is just no justice in a one-sided witch hunt, and that is why these investigations must end.
Well said. It must end. There needs to be a blanket amnesty.
Under the terms of the Good Friday Agreement, up to 500 terrorists walked free from prison. Many of those released had committed heinous crimes, yet we were told it was necessary to build goodwill, as peace could only be attained through compromise. But today that compromise is a one-way street that allows terrorists to walk free, while former soldiers acting under orders face prosecution and jail. So where will it end, I hear you ask? The simple fact is, it won't end until we force it to stop.
How are you doing, Paul?
First, it was investigations into the actions of British troops in Iraq, many of which proved to be false. Then it was a turn of veterans from the conflict in Northern Ireland. And now the can of worms has been opened on other historical conflicts. They've come under the microscope, including the actions of British troops in Cyprus, dating back to the 1950s. How long will it be before we start seeing investigations into all the other places Britain's armed forces have served in the last 50 years? We've already seen one terminally ill veteran, Dennis Hutchings.
Go Dennis!
He's been charged with attempted murder, despite being cleared on numerous occasions of any wrongdoing over the last 40 years. Dennis has been investigated by the standards of civilians who have no conception of what it's like to serve.
Exactly.
And charged, even though most of the witnesses to the incident are dead. But this treatment of veterans, people who served and protected this country by laying their lives on the line, is symptomatic of a broader disregard for our brotherhood. And all too often today, instead of being lauded as heroes, veterans are thrown to the wolves and decried by parts of society pushing their own agenda. And this pattern is repeated in many aspects of veteran care, with governments, councils and services choosing not to implement the rights of veterans given to them under the Armed Forces Covenant. It's a disgrace, and one I'm committed to tackling head on. So here today, I will make a promise to the UK's 5 million veterans and their families that I will not rest until we no longer see veterans sleeping on the streets.
Well said. Well said. 7,000 veterans sleep on the streets.
Accessing critical medical care and counselling, some may need to rebuild their lives in Civistry. Until the Armed Forces and Community Covenant is not only made fit for purpose, but also implemented across the nation, with a spirit of reward it's intended. And until veterans no longer face the threat of prosecution and imprisonment for doing their jobs and protecting the realm. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike Hookham. And I just want to add to that. I genuinely believe UKIP is the only party in this country, the only major party that has the potential to change things for us veterans. I'm going to say this: support UKIP, vote UKIP, join UKIP, put these people into government.
Well said.
Next we're going to have Al Weir, and Al Weir is going to be speaking on on behalf of a very, very good friend of Northern Ireland veterans. Let's have a round of applause for Mr. Robin Horsfall. Mr. Robin Horsfall.
6 soldiers committed suicide this week. 6 soldiers committed suicide this week. Let's talk about them. Okay, mate. Let's talk about them. Why are they committing suicide?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here to hear Robin Horsfall's speech. The point our friend just made about the soldiers committing suicide is extremely valid, and it's something that we're addressing as a group of people. But we're here to hear Robin's speech. Robin fought in the Iranian embassy siege. He was one of the first men to storm into that building. Robin Horsfall is a hero. He is suffering from cancer at the minute, and we've got a good friend of this movement, Alistair Weir, to come and read his speech on his behalf. Give him a good round of applause.
Thank you. Just before, I'd like to say I didn't actually serve due to knee operations. I was a handy cadet though, but I did want to serve, but my knees let me down. But I've always supported our lads, and especially you veterans. So I'd just like to lead into Robin's speech. Apologies for his absence. He's fighting another battle today, which is cancer. He hopes to see you again by the end of the year. And as Richard has said, all our best to Robin. So, let's talk about freedom. There is no freedom without the forces to protect that freedom. For the past 3 years, you and I have been rallying, marching and protesting. Robin has delivered 2 letters to the Prime Minister, 2 among many. The first a simple protest, the second a well-researched argument that claimed that your human rights were breached. And as you know what happened? Foxtrot Alpha. Why? Because this government fears the IRA and they don't fear you. In return for the sacrifice of a few old soldiers, the government hopes to keep the IRA from returning to their murderous ways and methods. You don't need reminding of those methods, but just to recap: tarring and feathering young women, kidnapping, murder, the mutilation of bodies, the torture of captured prisoners, bombs in bars, waste bins, bandstands and family buses. These gangsters have no limits, and yet the conflict in Northern Ireland, the British government quite rightly insists on holding the moral high ground in spite of your casualties and the general public's casualties. You knew who the terrorists were and where they lived, but did not resort to their evil methods, despite the desire of many of you to do so. Theresa May talks about proportionality, as if the IRA is entitled the same treatment as the British soldier. Mrs May, if you truly believe in proportionality, perhaps the British soldier should kill 3,000 IRA supporters just to bring the casualty figures back into some form of proportional equality.
Well said. Well said.
That is, of course, a foolish idea, but it shows what words like proportionality can actually mean. She says our veterans will be treated fairly. She cannot see the truth, and she has forgotten what the truth is. Without truth, her government has no future. But what is the alternative to Mrs May? Corbyn. A man who has said he never met the IRA. But there are published photographs of him attending IRA funerals, chatting to McGuinness and Adams. The truth. They can't handle the truth. Well, it's time for the truth to rise up and bite them in the bloody arse. So what can you do? How can you make those lily-livered cowards in the Houses of Parliament sit up and listen? You and me have done the bands and the marches. We have written to dozens of MPs. There are dozens of responses from MPs from both the Conservative and the Labour Party. The interesting thing about these letters is that most of them use exactly the same sentences. Some could be carbon copies. This tells us, you and me, that both leading political parties have some kind of agreement in this matter. It doesn't matter what the law says. The government and the IRA both ignore the law. It doesn't matter how many times we march, they will ignore you and us. How can they ignore you? Aren't there more than 4 million veterans in the UK? That's a force to be reckoned with.
Come round here because somebody's just tried to run in from the left to give abuse.
They plant doubt in the minds and
literally running from the left.
They divide and rule. Parliament is full of lily-livered cowards who are selling veterans and soldiers down the river. You must unify. You must come together and start a war. Not with war of bombs and bullets, but a war of words and votes. We must attack them where it hurts the most. Local elections, by-elections and general elections. Some seats in Parliament are held by majorities of less than 3,000. We must kick them in the ballot box.
Which one?
We need to steel ourselves and go over the top. We need to stand as candidates. We must unify and we must organise. All veterans groups must follow a flag.
I'll go over there, let's have a look at this guy over. Going for a wander over here. Sorry to come away from the speeches, but I'll just show you this guy over here with the black on who the police is talking to. Who's talking to him over there? Well, he's just tried to run in and disrupt veterans speaking about what the injustices of Northern Ireland, what's happening in Northern Ireland.
What veteran that suggested we should do, right? Have you gone up to these people here? I specifically told you 20 minutes ago not to do that. I didn't say a word to any of these folks. I was looking around, having a look at what their protest was. I was trying to listen to their speech. I was trying to understand their point of view. You drive me away from that.
Yes, for your own safety.
My own safety. So you're suggesting these folks are my own people who would attack me. Is that what you're saying? How is this for my safety? I don't feel particularly safe right now.
Of course, mate. No worries, mate.
Mate, it's a free city. I can do what I want. One brought up here. This is my city. I will do what I want. I will go where I please. You have no grounds at all to lock me up. When you go there, it's just that there will be a likelihood of the breach of the peace. Who do you think is going to be breaching the peace?
So, as I'm filming this chap here,
Mate, I've not done
I'm now being filmed by the police there. I agree with the police, my friend. I do, I agree with the police, mate. You tried to run over there and you were mouthing off at them guys there. These are ex-veterans who've served in Northern Ireland. Nothing to do with race, nothing to do with anything. You came over ranting and shouting at them.
When did I do that exactly?
Well, we just watched you, mate. We just watched you. Why do you think the police pulled you away? No, police don't grab hold of you and pull you away for no reason.
Yeah, they do.
No, they don't, my friend. No, they don't. No, they don't. Just why?
Is this going to be going
tell you
online,
what. Sorry, this isn't going live now. No. No. There you go. Nice little kiss from the lefty. You have a good day.
Peace and love, man.
Peace and love. You wouldn't know peace and love. You left. Sorry about pulling away from the speeches there. I just really wanted to see what he was all about. Obviously, he's coming around from Suttra. The policeman's just said that. I think he's just come out of a spaceship. I don't know whether Suttra are still round the other side of this square, but if they are, I'm going to go for a wander around and have a look at them in a bit, see what they're up to, still see if they're ranting and shouting about us being racists and Nazis.
But that didn't mean he wasn't prepared to go to war against evil. The evil is Sinn Féin and the weak government in Westminster. shadows are falling across Britain. We are stuck in a self-perpetuating system of Conservative and Labour governments. You and me, we have to change that. And we will do it with unity. From unity comes strength, and with strength we can change the future. The acorn doesn't worry about the great oaks. It reaches for the sky. We are the acorn, and we are going to grow. We are going to split the great oaks, and we are going to create a better future for our people. You can join the party, join the Veterans and People's Party, and help the acorn grow. Just to finish, do you remember how you felt on a big parade when you were all in step to the drum under the command of the RSM? Do you remember how you felt when you sang your songs in the mess and the nappy? Do you remember that unity, that power? Do you remember how good it felt to know that someone had your back on the streets and in Downing Street? That's the power of the soldier, the power of the veteran, the power of the people. So get out there at the next local election and vote, vote, vote.
The only way we can make any change in this country is by voting. We're a country full of apathy, and we need to be out there voting.
Members of Parliament and local councils, we are coming for you. We are coming for your seats, and we will not retreat. And I'd just like to finish. Be veterans still, to veterans true, among yourselves united. For nothing more than a veteran's voice will a veteran's wrongs be righted. Thank you.
Well said. Well said.
Thank you very much, Al Weir, and that was a great delivery. That's been very well done. And I just want to thank everybody that's come today. We haven't thanked you yet. I want to thank every single veteran that's come and stood with us today, because this is an important cause, and we can and we will make a difference. I want to thank Tracy Blackwell for coming all the way from London. Let's have a round of applause for Tracy.
What about you coming all the way from Ireland?
And I want to thank our friends in the DFLA who've come down. They're faithful to every single one of these marches that we do. They're called all sorts of slanderous things. I can tell you right here and now, the DFLA are not far right. They're just
so
right.
So right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, James.
So how do we get here? 1969, the streets of Ulster, and the country is on the brink of civil war. What happened? The British Army came, not as invaders. We came as peacemakers, not widowmakers. But soon we realised we had a determined and powerful and wicked enemy in the IRA. British soldiers became targets of bombs and bullets. And on the whole, they behaved with exemplary discipline. They behaved with resolve. And they behaved with compassion. And I want to tell you something. British soldiers saved far more lives than they took. And I want to tell you something else. The vast majority of people who live in Northern Ireland today appreciate your service and appreciate what we did for that country. We can be proud of ourselves.
Well said.
And there's one soldier who stands out head and shoulders above all others. He exemplifies everything that the Northern Ireland soldier should have done. And that soldier died on the streets of Ulster. He died in 1971. That man's name was Sergeant Mick Willits from the Parachute Regiment. And if you know his story, give him a round of applause. It was a spring morning. So it was a spring evening, it was May. Sergeant Willits was in the Springfield Road police station, protecting civilians, protecting police officers, as his mission was. The IRA launched a no-warning bomb attack, a suitcase bomb was thrown into the police station. The bomb was primed, the fuse was lit. Willits assessed the situation and he realised there wasn't time enough to do a proper evacuation. He realised that the Irishman and his wife and his children who stood before him were going to die unless he acted. And what did Mick Willits do? Did he turn away? No! Did he run? No! Did he hide? No! He stood there. And as that bomb exploded, Sergeant Mick Willits took the full force of the blast and his body, and he died. He gave his life a ransom for an Irish family, and that Irish family, no doubt, has children and grandchildren alive today because of the sacrifice that Mick Willits made. Let's have a round of applause for Sergeant Mick Willits. George Cross. And Mick is so typical of many of you who were bomb disposal operatives, who were search teams, who were dog handlers like Rob. They took great risks in defusing bombs, in finding bombs, in finding explosives. The covert and the overt soldiers that served and fought in Northern Ireland brought peace, not the politicians. It was you and me. We did it, not the politicians. Don't thank them, thank yourselves. Did the British Army make mistakes? Yes. We all made mistakes in Northern Ireland for sure. Did the British Army get it wrong sometimes? Yes. Of course we did. We're human, and to be human is to err. But did men that stand here today with me go out with malicious intent, with murder in their hearts? No, 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 we did not. Did the terrorists go out with murderous intent in their hearts? Yes, 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 they did.
Well said.
And think about this. If a terrorist is now convicted of a historical crime, the most he will get is 2 years in prison. Many of them have letters of comfort from Tony the traitor Blair. Whereas we have British soldiers who are facing trials that could theoretically get 25 years in prison for firing a shot that went astray and maybe killed someone that it shouldn't have killed. That is wrong, and that must be stopped immediately. Shame on the government for allowing this to happen. Shame on them. Shame, shame, shame on the government. They're a disgrace.
Fantastic
Shame on the police who are investigating veterans. I want to say to those policemen that are investigating veterans today, we're not talking about our very fine police officers who've helped us today. We're talking about the ones that are digging into the past of Army veterans. You have short memories. Policemen in Ulster have short memories of who protected and saved your lives for 30 years. Shame on the people that are investigating our brave veterans. Shame on the media who are cheerleading these malicious prosecutions. You know the papers I'm talking about. You know the broadcasters. Channel 4. Shame on you, Channel 4. Shame on you, Guardian newspaper. Shame on you, the Independent newspaper. I hope you've got some reporters here today, because we're ashamed of you. You're a disgrace to your profession. And shame on those protesters who stood round the corner and called brave British soldiers, some of them with a chest full of medals, who they called us Nazi scum. Our forefathers fought against the Nazis, and if the Nazis were around today, we'd fight them too.
Well said, well said.
The real Nazis today dress themselves in communist flags. They dress themselves in the colours of Stand Up to Racism. Shame on them. Hang your heads in shame. And we say to our comrades and our fellow veterans that we will stand with you.
Richard Ward.
We will support you. We will be with you. And we will fight with you until you get the victory that you deserve. Thank you very much. Now give it up for the organiser of the demonstration, Mr. Rob Gray.
I just want to say, first off, today I don't know whether they're expecting all sorts of things, but in reality, you guys, I grew 6 inches. I am so proud to be stood side by side with all of you. I want to thank the DFLA who showed up. Thank you for your support. And for anybody else who's turned out to support this cause, because it's a worthwhile cause.
Rob, to stand by you. Yeah.
Going back to what Richard said about Sergeant Mike Willits. The soldiers stood between them, between the whistling stones, and then the broken bottles that led to broken bones. We had that daily. Sometimes weekly, sleeping in burnt out buses in Cregan. But enough of that, because I get emotional with that story. I would gladly walk side by side into battle with any one of you men here today. Any one of you. You are the pride of Britain. And every veteran who would love to be here today, who couldn't for whatever reason, I would stand by you as well. But all I can say now is thank you. Thank you for turning out. Thank you for being who you are. And thank you. Thank you for everything.
Well said, Mr. Rob Gray.
I'd like to close this
Lovely
meeting
man.
now. But before I do, Richard came around earlier about guys that are committing suicide. 6 have committed suicide this week. It needs to stop. They don't deserve to die. They deserve help. And it's our duty to be there to support them. So if you see a veteran out on the streets, don't walk past him.
Help them. Talk to them.
Talk to him. Let him know that you're there. That's all we ask. That's all we can do. Because some veterans don't want help. They don't want to go into our kind of life where we've got a nice home and a roof over his head. They much prefer to be out roughing it. But it doesn't stop us trying. But like I said, let's remember those who take their own lives, as well as having the lives taken. Now I want to close this meeting and fall out, but I would ask you all to remain and listen to a good friend, Tracy Blackwell. Listen to her story. If it doesn't bring you on, if it doesn't get you to support her in what she's trying to do, and doesn't bring some of them, even the men, to tears, then I want to know why. Because, wow. Ladies and gentlemen, Tracy Blackwell.
Go on, Tracy.
Sorry, everyone. I'll start anyway.
Richard.
Thank you for inviting me to speak today. It is an honour to be standing here among such courageous people. I just wish we was not standing here for the reasons we are. For those who do not know me, I am the mother of Josh, and Nicola here is the mother of Harry. We also represent George. Our 3 wonderful boys were murdered in January this year, and the police, the CPS and the court covered their murders up. Since that day, we have found out many things, too many. We have also come across so many victims of injustices suffering at the hands of our corrupt establishment. The people of our nation have been betrayed by the very people who have been put in power, who should be protecting us. As we now know, this has been going on for years. We have attended demos where the movement that have been hosted, the demos are remembering the victims of terrorism. And yet we encounter a counter demonstration by a group called Stand Up to Racism, exactly what we've had today. Yet there has been no racism there. We are called Nazi scum, racist and fascist. Those names come from what you call the left. We do not concern ourselves with the opinions of sheep, because the truth is we are all activists for the truth, for justice, for honour and for peace for all. My grandfather fought in World War II, and he died because he carried the much needed radio on his body. So when the tanks came and started firing, everybody else could lay down flat on the ground, and he could not. So the shrapnel hit him in the chest and killed him instantly. Do you think for 1 minute that I will allow his death to be in vain, or any other soldiers that gave us freedom? Not in my lifetime, I will not. We owe that debt to all of them. Even though we are grieving families and our children and ourselves have suffered an injustice, it also matters to us when other people suffer an injustice. We have veterans coming back from Syria only to face terrorism charges. We have veterans on our streets. We have veterans committing suicide, mostly because of PTSD. We have veterans being charged with crimes that happened over 44 years ago. Yet as part of the peace agreement, more than 200 suspected IRA terrorists effectively got amnesty after comfort letters told them they were no longer wanted by the police. What deal did you do for that, Tony Blair? Shame on you.
Brilliant.
I have added to a quote I once read: when a serviceman cannot rely on the people that send them to war to protect their interests, to make sure help is at hand when they return, to make sure they have a home to go to, maybe then the government no longer deserves the right to command an army.
Yeah.
We live in times where it's wrong to voice your opinion, wrong to fly your flag, it's wrong to speak out, it's wrong to voice your opinion. And when we speak out, they discredit us, they lie about us to fill others with hatred towards us. When it's us here right now that are fighting for humanity and fighting for justice. We have lost our way because the establishment made us lose it through greed, through misery and bloodshed. Without the qualities of kindness, compassion and empathy, all will be lost. I say do not despair, the misery that is upon us, for this can be changed. The dark days can be turned into light if we all unite. We will remove the dictators, and what they took from the people will return to the people.
Well said.
We do not hate. We just hate what is being done to us, and quite rightly so. We will not be slaves. We will fight for liberty. The people have the power to change this nation. Let us fight peacefully to free ourselves. In the name of justice, let us all unite.
Well said, Tracy.
This will be the biggest battles of our life. We are in hell right now. We can stay as we are and get the crap kicked out of us, or we can peacefully fight our way back up. We can climb out of hell, inch by inch, even if we have to claw our way out. Because we know when we add up those inches, we know that will be the difference between winning and losing. If we do not fight, we will die as a nation. Our traditions will be gone. Our history will be stopped. And there will be no future for our children.
There's another wanker from the left. Excuse my French. Look at him. Another one of the great unwashed. Got to be disgusted in themselves. Yeah, I've got him on camera. It's going live. It's going live. Disgusting arseholes. Jesus, I'd love to get my hands on them bastards.
But it can't be great again. What went wrong? We voted wrong. We believed what they told us. We believed the mainstream media, then found out it was all an illusion. The dictators lie to get into power, then they enslave the people. Well, not no more. People are waking up like never before. They are seeing through their lies. They are seeing what they are doing to the people. We need to rock their boat. We are not their cannon fodder. We are not their scapegoats, and they cannot use us. With the British people, you better pray that when you knock them down, they better not get up. Well, to the establishment, we have all got up.
I can clear it up, Kaz.
We were born to win, and we will win. It is in my nature to be kind, loving, gentle, and to respect people. But when it comes to fighting for Josh, Harry and George, and protecting my children, my friends, my family, my country, and the people, do not mess with me. For I am the most relentless person you will ever know.
Brilliant. Well said, love.
Well said, Trace. Come on.
Well said.
As patriots, our vow to our country is we will work, we will save, we will sacrifice, we will endure. We will do our utmost as if the many struggles for all the injustices depended on us alone. We will fight for our rights against the tyranny of our treasonous establishment. We will not surrender to it now, not now or ever. The suffering and the persecution of the people needs to stop.
Yeah.
Every human right is being broken right now against the people. Nicola and I will never forget why we are standing here, and we will make sure the establishment will never forget why we are all standing here. We must make sure that our future children will have a quality of life, that they will have free speech, they will have freedom to learn their history, they will have freedom to live a peaceful and safe life. The silence from the majority of the people in this country is deafening. This is time to wake up the whole nation. Our poor murdered children cannot cry out for justice. It is the duty of the living to do so for them and everyone before them. In the face of tyranny and oppression, it is the patriot that will fight for freedom and liberty. It is the patriot that is willing to sacrifice all that they are and all that they have, and so the light of freedom and liberty is not extinguished. And in the words of Sir Winston Churchill, if you're going through hell, keep on going, because enough is enough.
Yeah. Well said,
Brilliant,
Tracy.
Trace.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much, Tracy. Always brings a tear to everybody's eye that hears Tracy's story. Let's get behind this campaign and support Tracy, and let's get justice for the boys. And I want to bring up a young soldier. I can say that because I'm over 50 now. I want to bring up Corporal Bates coming up. And Corporal Bates has been medically discharged from the army suffering from PTSD. And let's hear what he's got to say, because he's the next generation, he's the younger generation. Let's hear his story.
How we doing, ladies and gentlemen? I'd just like to thank you for giving me the stand for a couple of minutes. Like he was just saying, this is not rehearsed. You know, I just sat over there with my mother and he had everybody speaking. I thought, you know what, if I can put my 2 pence in and I can change somebody else's mind about the situation, and my job for the day is done.
Well done.
My name's Corporal Bates. My name's Corporal Bates. I'm part of the Afghan generation. I joined the British Army in 2006, where I originally joined the 2nd Battalion War Regiment of Fusiliers. It was my grandfather's regiment, and he served proudly in the 2nd Malayan War as a lead scout. So I decided to take that on myself, join the family regiment. One of the first betrayals that I personally experienced within the British Army is the disbandment of my regiment, 2nd Battalion War Regiment of Fusiliers, where we got disbanded. I left the army shortly before rejoining the 1st Battalion, the Irish Guards. And I can just say, even though I've served in 2 different regiments and I wear the Irish Guards cap badge today, I can say both of them are absolutely fantastic and immensely supportive for the following reasons. I deployed to Afghanistan in just after my 20th birthday. I believe it was my 20th birthday. In 2009, I went to Sangin Valley in Helmand Province and we took over some of the Royal Marines. That 6-month tour of Herrick 10 was to be known as the bloodiest 6-month tour of the whole Afghan campaign. And I can tell you from other soldiers who have been here, who share my experience, you know what it's like. It's hell. It's all theatres of war, and it's hell. Shortly after coming back, I noticed a few different changes myself, but not as much as my missus did at the time, not as much as my family. And it was obvious I was suffering with PTSD. It took all the way until September 2016 for my PTSD to develop to the point where it became unbearable and I had to go sick at home. It became unbearable and I eventually got medically discharged. The government, on my second act of betrayal, turned around to me and they said, when we're calculating your payout and your pension, we are not going to recognise your first 8.5 years service and we're only going to recognise your last 3 years of service.
Shame. Disgrace.
Meaning
Disgrace.
that my initial payout would be £30,000 left. But they spoke to a Yorkshireman, and they spoke to a Yorkshireman about money. So I put my flat cap on.
Well said, mate, well said.
I put my flat cap on, took my hair behind my ears and says, here, nobody takes £30,000 off me. And I fought them tooth and nail. And not only did I fight them tooth and nail, they gave me what I deserved, but they also re-looked at the legislation and admitted they had a problem. And from now on, every veteran that's medically discharged, who is a rejoiner, gets their money.
Well done, mate. Well done.
My main point is that I'm the youngest veteran here. But I know there's people in York who are younger than me, who are veterans, who are the same age, and they've got racks out here. They've got a lot to offer the veterans community. And if there's one person here, or one person sees this video, I'm here to tell you now that the persecution that's going on for Northern Ireland veterans, it's not going to stop there. It's not. As soon as they've had their 2 pence out of the Northern Ireland veterans, they're going to go to the Falklands War. Then it's going to be the First Gulf War. Then it's going to be Bosnia-Kosovo. Then it's going to be the Second Iraq War. Then it's going to be Afghan. Sooner or later, the old saying, shit rolls downhill, we're all going to get a piece of it. Now, to young veterans out there, there's an old saying, either we yield as a team, or we fall as individuals. That's as simple as it can get.
That's exactly right.
We need to come together, veterans young and old, and we need to make ourselves heard. Doesn't matter what they're doing there, the Greenpeace, they don't even know what they're activating. They don't even know what they're protesting against. All that matters is we know that we're making a difference. And that's the end of my 2 pence. I just want to thank everyone, thank you for coming here today. Thank you.
What an amazing speech from a hero of Afghanistan. Now we're going to have Norman come up and talk about PTSD just for 2 minutes. Go on.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to make you aware of a Facebook group which is Veterans United Against PSD. It's not an old group, it's not a new group, it's a group that's coming together. Over the last week, I've been working with this group and been on a suicide watch for one guy for the last 3 nights. To hear this guy's story, and just to hear this guy's story today, we've already had, since January, 22 deaths, suicides, our guys taking their own lives over this PTSD. Now what I'm asking you guys to do is look up this group on Facebook, and whichever veterans group you are in, I'd like you all to come together and unite, because it is my aim, and solely my aim, to make sure that Gavin Williams and Tobias Elwood, the Veterans Minister, wakes up. This is a wakey for the MOD. I'm proposing that we put boots on the ground in mass numbers outside of the MOD, and we keep our finger on the doorbell until we get some answers and some care and compassion for these guys that are suffering from PTSD. That's all I would like to say, ladies and gentlemen. Look it up, join forces together, get your boots on the ground. Now we're going to close. I'm going to hand you over to Rob, and we're going to do the minute silence.
Right, can I ask everybody, especially the man in uniform, please stand to attention for the last post. Thank you.
You're an embarrassment, mate.
To yourself?
Yeah, appreciate it.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time to go and enjoy some of York's finest hospitality and pubs. You're all dismissed.
So there we are, that's the end of the rally, the march for the veterans of Northern Ireland and the persecution against them and being charged for what they're being charged with. So, from York, I'd like to say good ta-ra, and the next time I'm a live stream will more than likely be on the 8th, which is next Saturday, which is in Middlesbrough, which I'll be live streaming against the rapes of the local women who live in that area from the grooming gangs. So thank you for joining, thank you for sharing if you shared, and if you have a look up a new group that I've set up which is called Political Eyes for the Right, is where all right-wing political parties are welcome, whether that be Conservatives, UKIP, For Britain, DVP or anybody. Right, we're all going to be in the same place where we can actually talk about differences and sort differences out without it blowing up into an argument like it always does. So, like I say, yet again, thank you very much for joining. Thank you for sharing. If you did share, it's appreciated. Take care.